All right. I'm picking right back up where I left off here to get this done. I might upload this tomorrow. I'm not sure. So let's get right back into it. Now, the chase scene. So the FBI, they find out from the FBI the location that might be John Doe's. They show up at the apartment, and one of the best chase scenes, comparable some of the chase scenes in the movie Ronin. You know, the chase scenes in Ronin are really good. If you've never seen Ronin, you like good car chase scenes, man, some of those scenes in Ronin are really good with Robert De Niro. Good movie. Um, Great example of action with action scenes that have context. Good stuff. Um, and so we enter into the strangest but fascinating and intense chase scenes I've ever seen. I should have watched this again. It is such a strange scene. It is bizarre. It's so weird. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to think of it. In the scene, John Doe is dressed exactly the same as Somerset. He's dressed the same. Same hat, same duster or whatever. They look the same. And Mills is chasing John Doe. And Somerset, you're getting the impression from what's being said that that Mills is trying to get him sort of directed towards where Somerset is. They're going to catch him, but that's not how it's filmed. It's filmed differently than what you're, as an audience member, watching. Going, I guess Somerset's going to try to follow Mills from a higher, from like a floor higher or whatever, and try to get around. But it's not filmed that way. It's filmed as if that Somerset is kind of trailing. And it's almost like, and again, I could be reading too much into it, but it's almost like Fincher is trying to tell us something. But I'm not sure. I will say this is a little bit of a stretch here, and it's just me trying to make heads or tails. Maybe one day I'll understand. I won't read what anyone has to say about it. Some of them may have already figured all this out. But to me, it seems like it's saying that in a way, John Doe is like the alter ego of Somerset. In fact, a police officer comes up to Mills later and says, "Is this what he looked like?" And he shows him a picture. And it's like, I looked very closely at the picture. I was like, does it look like the white version of Somerset? We know who the actor is that plays it. I think they were just trying to hint that Kevin Spacey was the actor, to be honest with you. But here's the thing, and we're going to learn this later. So we know that Mills and Somerset have been butting heads as to the right way to see police work, right? Mills wants to make a difference, and Somerset believes that's impossible. And both of them, their struggles have to do with apathy. John Doe and Somerset agree that apathy is a problem. And they would agree with this. Like John Doe is basically says, in order to get someone's attention now, you have to hit them with a sledgehammer. Or you have to wake them up. But who are you waking up? The people who are asleep to sin, right? So Mills's problem is with the people that would attack the people of the city. John Doe's problem is with the people of the city. And Somerset's problem is he's like the opposite of John Doe, right? He just wants to leave the city. And he just wants out. So here you've got Mills chasing John Doe, and it's almost like here are the two forces that are against each other. And in the background is Somerset, who's not entirely engaged. Because why? He's trying to get out altogether. And so we're learning something. What I mean by alter ego here is that we're learning something about Somerset through John Doe. And this chase scene is maybe a little bit of a microcosm. Again, I'm spitballing here, but a little bit of a microcosm of the entire story of Mills chasing down John Doe. This is two views in conflict, and Somerset kind of has to choose. John Doe is not entirely different from Somerset. He's not. That's why I say alter ego. He So John Doe does not accept and will not accept apathy. Whereas apathy is what's making Somerset, he said earlier, I believe, he says, I do think it's a solution. See, but it's making him want to leave. He's like, I don't understand anymore. And so they have two opposing views here. Well, they have a similar thing they're looking at. Okay, they both have a problem with apathy, but John Doe wants to fix it, and Somerset wants to leave, and Mills wants to be the difference maker. It's really interesting. You get a lot out of this little chasing. Then we come to one of the most brilliant scenes in the entire movie. This is some of the best foreshadowing you will ever see in a film. This is Hitchcockian. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, in the movie Psycho, I was told by my brother one time, he didn't believe this. He said, in Psycho, it says that when she's driving down the road, that the rain on the windshield and the windshield wipers coming down on the rain on the windshield, that was foreshadowing to the shower scene of the dagger stabbing down in the shower scene. And he's like, that's not true. And I was like, yeah, they're reading too much into it. You watch that scene. It absolutely is foreshadowing. 100%. You know how I know? Because the music being played is the same music in the shower. And the scene is unnecessary unless that's what it's doing. So she arrives at Bates Motel right when you're hearing this music come to its crescendo, which is the same music you hear when the mother, spoilers here, is walking away after she's been stabbed to death in the shower. Same music. It's absolutely 100% foreshadowing. The foreshadowing in this scene might be better. It's so good. So they get back. It's so in character too. Mills wants to take action. He's going to bust down that door and go inside of John Doe's apartment. And Somerset's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Think about how we got here. Put on the brakes. And he goes, what happens if you open that door? And Mills is like, no, no, no. Like, it's the same as the ending. It's the same scene. And it's the same problem. No matter what Mills does, John Doe wins. If he doesn't go in the door, all that work was for nothing. John Doe wins. If he does go in the door, the guy will walk. John Doe wins. That's the ending of the movie. They're showing it to you right here. That's how this is going to end. The more and more they go and try to open up these sort of mystery boxes, like what's in that apartment? You want to know. We all want to know what's in that apartment. We want Mills to go inside that apartment. It's all over if he does that, you see? And when you get to the ending and you see that box, we all want to know what's in that box. But we don't want Mills to know what's in that box, right? Because we know he'll just take action. Okay, so incredible foreshadowing. Now, again, getting back to the alter ego thing, they find John Doe's books, his notebooks, and Somerset reads a section, and it says, "What sick puppets we are." And this gets into free will. Mills is the only one that believes that they have the free will to make a difference. Somerset kind of agrees with John Doe. He kind of agrees there's just no point. It's just going to there's no point anymore. And John Doe completely agrees. It was pretty interesting. And just the whole idea that he's his alter ego. And it is a possibility. Now, here is one of my first big criticisms of Se7en. Stephen King knows horror really well. And one of the things he said about Misery was that one of his favorite things about her character in Misery was that she didn't cuss. I'm talking about Kathy Bates' character in Misery, is that she didn't cuss. She would, she'd be more likely to call you a silly Billy than, say something that with a cuss word in it. And what he says is it makes her 10 times more terrifying. And he's right. She's out of place. And all these scenes you see with John Doe in his notebooks, he's just cussing the whole time. And I'm like, why? It's the one area where I think Fincher kind of lost the narrative a little bit. I wish John Doe is supposed to be kind of a religious psycho. I think they should have had John Doe not cuss at all. I think he should have never uttered a single cuss word in the entire movie. It would have made a lot more sense. It just would have made the character much more terrifying. And that leads us to my second major criticism of Seven, and that is the scene of lust where we get way too much information. Way too much information. The first thing is this: we should have never seen the device. When Se7en Mills goes into the leather shop, and the guy says, I thought it was some performance art, and hands him a picture. We don't see what it is. Well, that's a good thing. We shouldn't see what it is. We should have never seen what it was. Leave it up to like Jaws. Leave it up to our imaginations. He goes in there, and the guy graphically describes what he did to this woman and how John Doe forced him to do it. And it's just not even close to as interesting as it could have been. What should have happened is we should have never seen a picture of this device. And we should have been, the guy should not have been able to describe with words what happened. They should have had Somerset taking shots in the dark as to what this guy made him do. And had him keep looking at the picture and have Mills looking at the picture, an audience expecting to see the picture and not seeing the picture, because we've seen every picture of everything. Now we're not seeing the picture, and have them say things like, because look, we get that this woman was like a prostitute. So he should look at it and be like, he made you wear this? And you don't need to tell us what they did. Instead, they had the guy graphically describe what he did. Well, we know what he did. It would have made it so much better if we had left the theater going, did he make him do what I think he made him do? That would have been more interesting. That's unfortunate. I don't have a lot of criticisms of Seven, but those are two big ones that I have. It's just, I think they were going for shock effect, and it's like, shock is never better than good storytelling, ever. Okay, well, I have a third criticism. This one's minor. I do not like, I want to reiterate something I said earlier. I do not like nitpicking movies. I can create justifications in my own mind. I don't need people to, all the like Lord of the Rings, they say, well, the Eagles could have just grabbed the ring and flown it over and dropped it in Mordor, from the sky. Okay, so now Tolkien has to come up with a reason why the Eagles can't do that. How about this? There's got to be a reason why the Eagles didn't do it. How about that? Good enough for me. I don't need every single... You can do this with any movie. You can do it with any story. You can find alternative reasons how something could have played out. I don't find that to be interesting critique. That said, this one, I've always had a problem with it because it's so glaring. And that is this. The way I would have liked to have seen the scene played out is they're at the police station, and Mills and Somerset should be in an argument, okay? And what we should do is the camera should be going between them. And as the camera's going between them, we see someone in white walking behind them with all the people walking around. And all of a sudden, the camera stops when it's between them, and it's blurred in the background, and you hear Spacey yell, "Detective!" And then we look, and here's this guy covered in blood. That would have been an intense scene. And I get the idea of the camera going between the two guys from Saving Private Ryan. In Saving Private Ryan, he leans over to talk to a guy on a phone while they're on the beach at the very beginning, and the camera. So he leans over, the camera rolls over, and we see the guy, and he says, "Say this." And he leans back over, and the camera goes with him. Then he comes back again, talks to the guy again, the camera goes away. Then we see somebody roll over the guy that had the phone, but we don't see the guy's face. It goes back, and then it goes again, and the guy's face has been destroyed. And it's shocking. You're like, whoa. And the camera's setting you up. It's getting your mind in a frame that, okay, they're communicating this dialogue. They're trying to get something accomplished. They're trying to get up the beach. Boom, no, the guy's dead instead. It just disrupts all of your senses and everything. Just to give you the idea of what it would have been like to have someone there, just all of a sudden now they're dead and you needed them. I think that could have worked here. You just go back and forth between the two characters, and all of a sudden, right in the middle, someone's walking up, and boom, it's him. But what do we get instead? What we get instead is a real problem. We get John Doe coming out of a taxi, And the taxi just kind of casually rolls away. And it's like the taxi driver didn't see that this guy was covered in blood. I'm just like, what? And I can't really justify it. Like, I'm in my mind going, why would anyone even take him on board unless he pointed a pistol at him, which he didn't, because he says he doesn't have any weapons. And if you look closely, he's got a tape on his fingers too. It's a haunting scene for sure. But to have him coming out of the cab, it made no sense. I'm sorry, I have to keep this short. I don't want this to be 20 minutes long. So there's some problems with that. And then we get Doe versus Somerset, which I've kind of alluded to a little bit. That just Doe's view of the world. He sees the problem of apathy, but his solution is to shock everyone out of their stupor and see sin for what it is. Whereas Somerset just wants to leave, and Mills wants to be the difference maker. Okay, I have a little bit to say about this. I wanted to save some time for this. Shout out to location scouting. There is a major problem for the ending of this movie, and that is the location. The whole movie, the city is bearing down on you. You're claustrophobic. In the ending of the movie, they're going to go out into the country. That's a problem. But narratively, it makes some sense because the idea here is Somerset is getting closer to the end. He's leaving the city. He's retiring. He's moving away. He's getting closer. He's rising up out of hell and now is on the precipice of leaving. And whoever did this scouting, just brilliant. I went to a wedding one time where it was at the backyard of this house in Tennessee. And it was this meadow. And it was absolutely the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And someone tells me, yeah, this guy grew up here. This is where he grew up, the groom. And I was like, wow, he grew up here? And I thought about my own childhood. You know where I grew up? I grew up basically in an alley, not an alley, but I grew up in a place where it was just all concrete. But where we would play was in an alley, and in an alley, it's just concrete where the earth is sort of reclaiming it, There's weeds jutting up through the middle of the street and, little, stillborn trees off to the side. Well, this final location looks like a place where it's the reverse, where the earth is being reclaimed by the city. Because you have these, I don't know if that's what they intended, I'm just saying it looks like that. You have these telephone poles just popping up out of the ground as far as the eye can see. And the idea here is just they can't really get away from the city. They just can't fully do it. That solves the problem. Oh man, brilliant location for this ending. Now, John Doe says something to Mills that's brilliant. And this type of internal consistency is so hard to come by in a movie. He says to him, it's amazing what a member of the media can get with a few dollars. And that harkens back to another point in the movie where he gets mad at a member of the press taking the picture of him, and he kicks him, he says, get out of here, and yells at him. And Somerset goes, it's impressive seeing the man feed on his emotions. And he says, how do they do that? He says, people in the media pay, and they pay, police officers, and they pay well. Well, that's exactly what ends up happening. It's that caused him to get all the information, to basically dox Mills. And this is why I don't like time travel stories. That kind of internal consistency, like irony like that, is real cheap in a time travel story. But in a movie like this, it's absolutely amazing. So we get to the end. We see his switchblade open the box. So there's been a little minor story with the switchblade. And watch that closely from now on. He's using it to open things up. He's using it to accomplish certain things, like the scene at Gluttony and so forth. And now he's going to do it here again. He's going to use it to open up this box. And the first time you watch this, you have no idea what's in that box. None. Now, right before Mills executes John Doe, we see, if you look closely, you'll see his wife's face flash on the screen. It's very creepy. And it's just right before he makes the decision to kill him. But the intensity of that scene, if you've been paying close attention, you know he's going to kill him because it's already been foreshadowed. In the other scene where I told you that it was foreshadowed, he kicks in the door. It's been showing you the whole movie that Mills is cavalier, that Mills is hasty. He feeds on his emotions, right? That's what he does. So he's going to kill this guy. He can't win anyway. It's a catch-22. He loses if he doesn't kill him. He loses if he does. But Somerset sees the bigger picture, right? And Somerset, again, being how he is like, whoa. Give me the gun. Let's put all this on pause. Let's not do this right now. And he doesn't want to tell him what's in there. And then when he finds out his wife was pregnant and didn't know. So then the question then comes up: how does Mills escape the city? Does Mills retire? Well, it's the reverse of John Doe. You know how John Doe's a catch-22 and they can't win against John Doe's scheme? Mills can't lose. And here's why. He quotes, it's escaping me. It's not Dante. Is it Hamilton? I'm not sure who he quotes. But he says, it's something along, I should have wrote it down. The world is a great place and worth fighting for. And he says, I agree with the second part. What's he mean by that? He's basically saying, I'm going to continue to fight. And that basically means Mills, he could either leave, right, and he's out, doesn't have to worry about it anymore, or he could stay in the fight. Somerset. Somerset can retire and leave, or he can go back in and stay in the fight. And he chose to go back in and stay in the fight. But Somerset couldn't lose. He could have escaped the city and didn't, and he could have gone back in and continued the fight, and he did. And either way, he wins. So although Mills couldn't win, Somerset couldn't lose. Pretty interesting ending there. The two, that's the capstone there. It's like Mills, Somerset gets his entire character arc resolved really, really well, and his character arc trumps John Doe's evil. And he becomes a difference maker again. Very good redemption arc for the character. Incredible work by Morgan Freeman. I doubt he's done anything better than that, but I don't know how many actors have done anything better than that. He was just so good in it. I want to make one final thing, because I said this in the first part one, that I was going to pick one. Which movie was better, Silence of the Lambs or Se7en? Because they're the two definitive serial killer films from the 90s. I think Se7en is the better movie. But for me personally, I favor Silence of the Lambs. And the reason why I think Se7en is a better movie is it overcomes bigger obstacles. Se7en really should have been a linear movie. And in lesser hands, it would have been. But instead, they masked all of those problems by forcing it to be a more dynamic film. And as a result, actually becomes a more dynamic movie. And I try to mine the depths of this film. I can't. But the only thing with Silence of the Lambs is I could go back and watch it again and I'd still learn new things. Se7en, I'm not so sure how many more new things there would be to learn. And that's not a knock on the movie. It's just, it's so perfect in the way it's done. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time on everything. But with Silence of the Lambs, I really feel like you can never fully know. And there's just more you can learn there. But man, I have to say, this was incredible to watch. Personal favorite. Also, with Silence of the Lambs, I have sort of a nostalgia with that movie. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope someone watched this eventually. If you're hearing these words and you've watched everything, I really appreciate it. And like and subscribe and have a good one.